Hey church family, just wanted to get this video to you. It's going to have three basic parts to the video. We're going to have some updates on church life, we're going to have our prayer focus, and then we'll transition into a devotional encouragement from Psalm 23. So the first thing is we are going to have a live stream this Sunday. There is a special provision just for churches in the mayor's order. So we will have a live stream, so be looking forward to that and tuning in at 10:30 on our Facebook page. We are also putting together an anxiety group. You can find out more about that group and join that group at the Planning Center site, and that's gonna sign you up. It's gonna be a weekly kind of check-in encouragement, pointing you to the truth of God in this time where anxiety can rule so often. We also want to encourage you to get connected with your community groups right now through Zoom. Just because we cannot meet together in one place doesn't mean that we cannot meet together online. And our group met last Thursday, and it was really just good to see everyone's faces and connect with each person and pray for them. So want to encourage you to do that and be involved during this time. And then last thing is we are going to have a Sunday class coming up as well. It's going to be the gospel in all of life. Andres is going to be teaching that again. And I've seen some of the material. It's going to be very good. It's going to be a blessing to you. So look for that as well on our website and our planning center. Just because we are unable to meet together does not mean that ministry stops or that church life stops. We just have to find a different way to do that. So I want to encourage you to get involved in whatever way we can. And then this week, our prayer focus is going to be on first responders and medical personnel. So if you know a first responder, if you know someone in the medical field, be praying for them this week. And now it's time for our devotion. Let's read this, and then we'll walk through it a little bit and kind of pull some of these little nuggets out that are encouraging to us. So Psalm 23, a psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for You are with me. Your rod and Your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. You know, church, the Lord, through His Spirit, caused David to start this psalm off with speaking about God as a shepherd. Why? Well, because David was a shepherd, and he knew firsthand what a shepherd did for his sheep. He knew the care and the love and the work that went into being a shepherd. And he says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The one who knew about shepherding, he said, the Lord, He's my shepherd. He's the one who does all for me that I need. You know, the shepherd was responsible for the sheep, for giving them all that they needed: food, water, safety, security, even affection. And he says that because of the Lord being his shepherd, he shall not lack anything. Nothing that he needs will he lack. The Lord will provide all that David needs. And then he goes on to spell those things out very certainly for us, right? He makes me lie down in green pastures. Oftentimes these green pastures were hard to find in a desert. We don't have a lot of green pastures around here, do we? And Israel was very similar to our climate. And so the shepherd had to do a lot of work in order to find those green pastures. And he says, man, he makes me lie down in those green pastures. What was the significance of that? Well, for one, the green pastures would provide food, nourishment, which would give strength, which would prolong the life of the sheep. And they were also a place where you could rest easily and not on the rocky part of the world and the rocky soil and things that were hard. There was softness there in the grass. He leads me beside still waters. Sheep would neither cross nor drink from water that was moving very swiftly. So the fact that he leads him beside still waters is another example of the Lord's loving care and providing all that the sheep needs for his life. He restores my soul. You know, David knew firsthand the effects of sin in his own life. And he knew where the cure for that was. It was in the restoring power of the Lord to restore his soul and to bring him back to a place of loving and following and chasing after the Lord. And then he says, he leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Isn't that so good? The Lord brings us to righteousness and leads us in paths of righteousness. Yes, they're good. It's good for us. But it's ultimately for God's name's sake. It is for God's glory is what David's talking about. These paths of righteousness, this way of right living, this restoring of the soul and bringing back from sin and leading in paths of righteousness. It's all for the glory of the Lord. It's for the Lord's name to be made known through David's life. And he goes on further here and he says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. You know, we right now can sometimes feel like we're in that valley, right? A different translation could be the valley of deepest darkness. And everything's dark around us. If you listen to the news, all you hear is bad news. Bad news. Today is worse than yesterday. Today's worse than yesterday. And tomorrow's probably going to be worse than today. There's just this constant escalation and ramping up of things. And, you know, it's dark out there. It's the valley of deep darkness. David says, I will fear no evil. Because you are with me, Lord. You are with me. And church, the Lord is with us today. The Lord is with us for the last few weeks. The Lord has been with us since COVID-19 hit. I mean, he was with us before it even hit. He knew what was going to happen. He's not shocked by this. He's not in awe. He's not wringing his hands up there in heaven going, what am I going to do? No, this is no surprise to the Lord. And even more surprising for us is the fact that the Lord is even leading us through this and has led us into this. This sheep didn't just get here in this valley of deep darkness alone. No, the Lord is with this sheep. The Lord is with David. And he says, your rod and your staff comfort me. The rod was an instrument of protection. It was used to beat back the wolf or the bear or the lion that would come and try to kill the sheep. And it was one of those things of comfort for the sheep. The staff likewise was used to guide the sheep and to steer them. Hey, you're getting a little too close to the edge of the cliff there. Let's walk back this way. Hey, you're getting too close to the swift moving water. Ease it back this way some. And those things are there in the valley of deep darkness. Why? Because the Lord has led this sheep there. And church, it's no surprise to the Lord that we're here. He's leading us through this, hoping that our eyes would be on Him, hoping that our hearts would be stayed on Him. Just as David, in this illustration of the sheep, not being afraid in the valley of deep darkness, the Lord's hoping that we would not be afraid as well, that we would cling to Him, that we would take comfort in His protection, that we would take comfort in His direction. Because He's there, He's here giving it to us right now. And then David goes on to say what the end point is. The end point of the story. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. You know, church, there's a table being prepared. While right now we're in the presence of our enemies, we're in the presence of chaos and uncertainty and fear and anxiety, and those things are very real to us. The Lord's preparing a table. A table that we will be welcomed to at the marriage supper of the Lamb. One day we will be brought into this table, and the Lord himself will serve us of this table, and we will partake of rich food and rich wine and things that we didn't buy. Oh, it's going to be a great day. And the Lord is preparing that right now while we are in the presence of our enemies and while we're in the presence of fear and anxiety and uncertainty. And he's doing that. And then David says, you anoint my head with oil. That was another means of protection. They would pour oil over the sheep's head, lots of oil, so that it would get in the ears and in their eyes, and the bugs and the flies and stuff wouldn't bother them because they wouldn't land on the oil. And so he's saying, hey, this is just another means of care and affection of the Lord in protecting us from things. And so he's saying, you anoint my head with oil. And he says, my cup overflows. What does he mean by that? Well, everything that the Lord does, he does more than is necessary. You know, we had a debt of sin to pay. And at the cross, Christ paid that sin. Yet, that's not all that happened. You know, through faith, we're not only counted as sinless because Christ has taken our sins upon himself. We get Christ's righteousness credited to us. We get an alien righteousness poured over us. And his righteousness is way more than we could ever do. Our cup of righteousness is overflowing with Christ's righteous deeds. That's what David's pointing to right here. He's pointing to a righteousness that overflows, that flows out of everything that Christ did and just spills over and just keeps on going. It's a never-ending overflowing cup. And then he tells us what the end is. You know, right now we're wondering, what does the end look like? How does this coronavirus thing end? Well, it may end in this, but it probably won't. But one day, the true ending will come. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Another way of putting this is only goodness and steadfast love will follow me. Now, what is the goodness? The goodness is the goodness of the Lord to his people that we've seen over and over again throughout history. And steadfast love is that steadfast love of the Lord that never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. That's what we have to look forward to. And then ultimately, we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So church, just remind yourselves of those things that the Lord has done and also of where he's taking us. He is taking us to a feast that he is preparing right now. And he is taking us to a place where we will dwell secure in his house forever.